Davos was once the state where rules of globalization were celebrated. Mark Carney, Canada's former central banker and a global financial statesman, spoke at Davos. His words didn't sound like optimism, they sounded like a warning. A warning that the rules-based international order, long preached and promoted, may no longer function the way it was promised. Mark Carney didn't sound like a man defending the system. He sounded like a man asking whether the system still exists. Rules-based order still exists. Institutions exist. Treaties exist. Alliances exist. Yes. But when rules exist only on paper and power decides when to follow them, are they still rules or just decorations? Middle powers can no longer afford silence. Carney's sharpest observation wasn't about confrontation, it was about silence. When intimidation comes from one direction, middle powers whisper privately, but stay publicly silent. Carney's core question was simple but uncomfortable. If rules exist, why are they applied selectively? For decades, middle powers, that is countries like Canada, Australia, South Korea, Japan and many European nations, were told that trade would be fair, security would be collective, power would be restrained by rules. But today, Carney hinted at an uneasy truth. When intimidation comes from one direction, many stay silent. Silence in effect becomes consent. This silence, he warned, slowly normalizes coercion. Carney reframed power itself. Not tanks, not missiles, but leverage. Who controls markets, supply chains, technology, capital flows? Control outcomes? That's just globalization working. Globalization works only when dependence is mutual. When dependence flows one way, it becomes subordination. Carney didn't speak the language of confrontation, he spoke the language of leverage. Power today isn't just military, it's supply chains, currency dominance, market access, technology choke points, and coercion works only when dependence exists. That's why Carney argued that the real battle isn't ideological, it's economic architecture. Carney's solution was practical, not emotional. Reduce the leverage that enables coercion. How? Build a strong domestic economy. A country that cannot sustain itself economically cannot act independently diplomatically. This means investing in domestic manufacturing, securing energy independence, protecting strategic industries, strengthening labor and innovation ecosystems. For Canada, this includes a critical mineral strategy, clean energy investments, industrial policy aligned with national security. Economic strength, Carney implied, is foreign policy armor. Carney was clear. Diversification is not about choosing sides. It's about survival. It's not ideology. It's prudence. Relying on a single market, no matter how large, creates vulnerability. Canada has clearly taken this lesson to heart, and the steps taken include free trade agreement with the European Union, free trade agreement with the 12 Asia-Pacific countries opening Indo-Pacific markets, trade outreach to Asia, Latin America and Africa, re-engagement with the emerging economies, reducing exposure to single markets. This is not decoupling, this is ending overdependence. This is de-risking, and de-risking is the foundation of what Carney called an honest foreign policy. Diversification is not ideology, it is insurance. A country that speaks about values abroad but depends economically on coercive relationships loses moral credibility. True independence allows a nation to speak honestly, act consistently, push back when rules are violated. That's why Carney emphasized long-term partnerships, not transactional ones. Find partners who build and value relationships, not leverage them. What Carney described is not new. Let history speak for itself. Here is where the story widens. For centuries, Africa had gold, diamonds, oil, cobalt. But colonial powers ensured raw materials exported cheaply, finished goods imported expensively, no local industry development, currencies were controlled, borders were artificial, infrastructure served extraction, not people. That was colonialism, ancient history. Is it ancient or just renamed? In the 1700s, India produced over 25% of global manufacturing output. British policy ensured Indian textiles destroyed, British goods imposed, farmers forced into cash crops, local industry criminalized. India wasn't poor, it was made poor. That was empire, not economics. Empire always hides behind economics. In Southeast Asia, rubber, tea, sugar, tin, colonial powers built economies designed for export dependence, single crop vulnerability, foreign ownership. Local elites complied. Local population paid the price. Dependency was not accidental, it was strategic. What's different today is who is experiencing it. Many developing nations are watching closely. They recognize the pattern. Economic leverage, political pressure, compliance through dependency. What was once imposed on poorer nations is now being felt by middle powers. And that brings us to the most controversial but honest conclusion. In a twist few expected, history may remember Donald Trump not as a disruptor but as an accelerator. His policy of America First was not subtle, it was not diplomatic, but it was honest. It stripped away illusions. Trump did not invent this system. He simply said out loud what many practiced quietly. What was once imposed abroad under polished language is now applied openly. Old wine, new bottle. And that honesty, intentional or not, has had consequences. Middle powers are reassessing dependencies, diversifying markets, strengthening domestic capacity, rethinking alliances. Smaller nations are learning faster than anyone else. They see that no guarantee is permanent, no alliance is unconditional, no order is immutable. Mark Carney's Davos speech wasn't about confrontation, it was about preparation. A world where power is more fragmented, rules are more contested, independence must be earned, not assumed. The era of passive globalization is over. What comes next will be shaped by economic resilience, strategic diversification, honest partnerships, and yes, by lessons learned the hard way. The changing world order. The world isn't becoming lawless, it is becoming transparent. Power has always existed, leverage has always been used. The difference now, everyone can see it, and once seen, it cannot be unseen.